Hey everybody, medium and astrologer Brandon Russ. I want to thank you so much for joining it. Don't forget to click like and subscribe, share with your friends. Do whatever it is that you can do to support fun videos like this. Today we're going to be talking about JD Vance. JD Vance is, of course, Donald Trump's running mate for the 2024 election. And what could we say about somebody that can't actually say something about themselves? He wrote a book called Hillbilly Elegy. And those of you that got your way all the way through it understand that it is a book about coming of age in the backwoods of Kentucky. It is also a story about the change of a man and the opportunity for him to find a family that can connect and love him after he goes through some horrific events with his biological parents. As somebody that is an adoptive foster parent, I can relate to some of JD Vance's backstory. Could I have adopted him? Maybe, possibly. And like many kids that are distressed, he chose the military, and he went the military route, served 4 years, saw active duty, and eventually came back and attended Yale Law School, where he received his law degree. Now, I think he received his law degree. I don't know if he actually went JD fully. Is he really JD? I don't know. I should probably look that up before I started this. But what I do know is that he became a financier. He actually worked within many tech companies. He was a liaison for several tech deals, takeovers, that sort of thing. And he was associated more with Tech Valley than he was with the Ohio Valley. And then when he came back home, he got married, settled down, and began his, kind of political career. And what's interesting is that he has kind of a unique perspective on a lot of different things. Like, for instance, once upon a time, he called Trump Hitler. And then he slowly kind of changed his stance. Well, he also had different stances on, say, train safety that has changed over time. He has had very choice words about women's rights and changed those over time. So JD Vance, in addition to his name, he's also very changeable in his politics and his policies as well. And he has a very kind of keen sense of being a political survivalist, if we can say that. So if you caught my first video where I talked about Vance's natal chart, go ahead, click on the links below. They're right there. But today we're going to take a look at where the two of them, why would Donald Trump choose JD Vance? Let's kind of hone in on that one, and then let's look at the two of them as a team, and then really kind of decide it. A lot of people kind of scratch their head when it came to JD Vance for two reasons. One, Ohio has been a very Republican state for many decades. Like, I think it's been 1936 since the last time it voted Democrat. So it kind of has that. You typically pick a vice president that can balance your ticket in a couple of different ways. Have strengths that the president doesn't have, which, okay. He's got youth. That's kind of the big deal. He also is a little more advanced in his rhetoric of Republican Party, which is probably the primary reason why he was chosen and selected. But I want to point something else out before I even dive into this. I found it very interesting. The meaning of the word Vance is actually rooted in Scottish, and it means marshland. The alternative meaning is swamp or swamp-like nature. So I just wanted to kind of mention that. I don't know how it's relevant yet, but his name is actually, it means swamp, guys. It means swamp. So let's take a look at the two of them together. And actually, I think it's kind of funny. The two of them here, I thought it was really funny. This picture right here, and I'm gonna blow it up a little bit here. It's almost like he was, how do I want to say it? Like, he's almost like gooning after him. I don't know how else to say that other than it looks like he's just gooning him. Like, as in like, hey. And again, I'm not here to make fun of anybody, but for the love of Pete, like, can't you just see the, I don't know what the advantage is, but let's take a look at the astrology. And I think this will give you some proposal here as to why the two of them are besties all of a sudden. Big deal about Algol, right? Right up at the top of the chart. Well, you're like, hey, Brandon, how does that end up in the top of the chart? For this reason and this reason alone, JD Vance is at 27 degrees Leo for his rising, for his ascending. Donald Trump is 29. They basically have the exact same house setup. Now, why is that a pro and a con? The negative on this, the con on it, is that, well, you're not really playing to each other's strengths. You're not really going to be able to polarize certain things. You're going to get a lot of things that are kind of in the same. You're going to approach the problems in the same way in a lot of ways, because each and every house has a certain personality to it. So they are Leo in the first house, then they are. Well, actually, since they're so far gone on this, they're really kind of Virgo in the first house, which is very self-righteous. And then, Libra in the second house, which is, hey, is that your money? Because I think it's my money now. And then Scorpio in the third house, etc. In other words, they're going to kind of like encapsulate the same point of views and the same purview all the way through. Now, the pro on this, the thing that is positive, is that you can really kind of steamroll an idea because you're hanging out with like-minded people. One of the challenges of this, back on that, is that he won't be challenged. So JD Vance was chosen astrologically to be a yes man. Make no mistake about this. Make no mistake about this. Now, I'm going to go right around the horn here, and I think you guys are going to understand where I'm at with this. So, first of all, on the ascending, Donald Trump's Mars is right here at the 26th degree, and he's at 27 degrees Leo. His Mars is on his ascending. JD Vance is basically his bitch. Like, I can't say it any other way. And by the way, he is going to appeal to his vanity because Mars is in conjunct with his Venus, with JD Vance's Venus. And guess what? That's just a sheer domination. That is masculine over feminine. He thinks JD Vance is a weakling. Right out of the gate, you see why he chose him. He wanted a yes man. Literally, that's the end of the read. You don't need to know anything else, but I'm going to go over a few more things here. But just that aspect alone, their ascendings line up, so they are basically the same person. And then you have Trump's Mars conquering his Venus in the 12th house. So he's going to use him as a punching bag from start to finish. JD Vance isn't his own person. He hasn't been in his entire career. He changes his name, he changes his look, he changes his whatever. And I'm not saying you can't grow up and then have a beard, but what I am going to tell you is that when you're a politician and jumping into the realm that he is, if you go back and you watch the Vance video, there are some real things about how he can't see the trees through the forest. Right? Where he's really got these challenges. Now, listen, there is a little bit of save me here because Donald Trump's Chiron is sitting in his second house. So he's looking to get money out of him. He is looking to get money out of, he's seen this as like hey, this is a grift for all of us. Right? Then he's got kind of this emotional thing like, hey, I can love you because you're in my family. And look at this. His Lilith, Donald Trump's Lilith is on his south node. So that's a very passive position. So that's JD Vance looking past all of his like kind of not so good stuff, if that makes sense. Now you start to go all the way around the wheel. Look at these voids from Trump to Vance. The sixth house is completely null. But, here in the fifth house, there's no influence on this. So he's not going to encourage him creatively. And even in opposition, he got his shots in. Donald Trump is going to literally look to really kind of bitch slap him. I'm sorry. This is not good stuff, man. right? You've got the opposition of the 5th and the 11th house. Now, this isn't a direct opposition, but you've got Mercury in the 11th house here for Trump, and then his power base. One of the things that JD Vance really does have going for him is his Jupiter Neptune here in the fifth house, which is his adaptability and all that other stuff. He's going to take shots at that. Now, getting up here to the 10th house, which I think is the other piece of real noteworthy conversation here, is you have Algol sitting right there in the 10th house. These guys they're the same person. They're the same person, and they look at it as in like, well, if I get mine before you get yours, so be it. If there's one life vest left, it's a fight to the death. There's no, why don't you take it, you're younger. There's no, why don't you take it, you're the president. They will absolutely sell each other out. They will stab each other in the back. I will also tell you that with this, with JD Vance's Mars in Scorpio, might have the upper hand in the long term. There's a little more longevity here with that. You also have Saturn in Scorpio. So he's going to change his message, right? That Saturn in Scorpio in the 3rd house is a lot of changeable stuff over time. And by the way, is it done out of wisdom or is it done out of survival? He's kind of a survivalist, so he's taken that route. But the thing that Trump is going to take advantage of and has already is seeing, that his son is basically in his 10th house and essentially telling him, hey, listen, I can make you great. A lot of promises here. He's like, I'm going to make you famous. Guess what? Donald Trump makes everybody around him famous. Everybody. That sun in the 10th house here, the sun connected to the North Node, is, hey, vote for me and I can set you free, along with Uranus. Aha, this isn't going to go the way you think it's going to go. And it's sitting in his 10th house. This is an absolute diabolically, it's a disaster for JD Vance. A personal disaster. His Uranus is sitting in his 10th house. He is going to he's going to be a podcaster in a basement in 18 months. I'm calling my shot on that. JD Vance becomes a podcaster out of his basement in 18 months after the election. There it is. There it is. This 11th house, JD Vance doesn't really... He kind of rails against the idea, aside from the Leo rising and the Venus conjunct to his rising, he doesn't have a lot. Well, he does have Pluto in the 29th anarch in the 3rd house. So he's got some communication chops, but he's also kind of talking out of both sides of his mouth a little bit. So there's that. And his healing is really done in duality. I give him a lot of credit. I give JD Vance a lot of credit for being connected to and falling in love with somebody that is not of his race. If there is one thing where I go, okay, this guy's got hope, he has an opportunity of empathy, but he's got to get knocked down a peg. And Donald Trump is going to be the worst thing ever to him. Just like Pence, he ruined Pence's career. Like cover to cover, he ruined Mike Pence's career. And listen, true to form, I think Pence is somebody, and when we look at Pence's chart, go back in some of the videos, he was very much somebody that was trying to make everybody happy. He was trying to be the peacemaker. He was trying to have that dynamic of, yes, Mr. Trump, we'll make that work. Like, I don't know, we're going to make this work, but we're going to make it work. But instead, he sacrificed his own career. He eventually did the right thing for the country, just like Joe Biden stepping aside. So with JD Vance, I don't see that. I do see personal atonement, though, and I do see that he's going to kind of like, thrive under that. The other power position that's sitting here is Donald Trump's Pluto is sitting right over JD Vance's sun. Like, it is direct conjunct. Like, it's off by like maybe 15 minutes, maybe 25 minutes, depending upon how you look at it. If he was born like 15 minutes earlier, it would have been a 100% chicken dinner there. But Pluto in the 12th house, again, it's in Trump's 12th house too. It is his undoing. So if he's going to undo something, he's going to undo it big. JD Vance's sun sitting here in the 12th house in conjunct with Vesta, the great learner, and in a wide conjunct to Venus, although I'm more impressed with Venus being on the ascending. See, Venus on the ascending means that he could kind of, there's a level of vanity here, but it's also kind of like he has to identify with what he loves. If right now what he loves is writing the prologue for the 2025 Project 2025, JD Vance wrote the prologue on that. He wrote the introduction to it. So he's definitely grifting to whatever ideology stuff he wants to kind of like talk about. But this chart from Trump to Vance is 100%. JD Vance is 100% Donald Trump's bitch. There is no other way to look at it. There is no other interpretation you can have. You have Pluto over his sun. You have Venus being encapsulated by his Mars. And you basically have he doesn't know how to get out of it. Because Donald Trump knows he can control him because he is able to think like him. Because his houses line up perfectly. If I was JD Vance, I would have said no. Looking at the astrology, I would have said, I'll have other opportunities. I'll have other opportunities to look like Don Trump Jr. No wonder why Donald Trump's kids loved him. He reminds him of daddy, and he can actually get his ear. There's something to this. All right, guys. Well, listen, thanks so much for tuning in. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Be sure to catch my Shuffle Up and Heels, my weekly stuff. And oh, by the way, if you want to see me every week on a destination call, I do a thing called the Weekly Bee. Now, that is a learning platform. I basically come in, we talk about the astrology of the week, we talk about a tarot card or two, and then we talk about a different topic every single week to expand your intuition, your breadth of knowledge with mediumship, and help you understand how to navigate the day-to-day becoming as we barrel towards the age of Aquarius. All right, guys, thanks so much for tuning in. Hard taps to everybody out there. And remember, keep going.